Hello and welcome to the 84 Million podcast. This is a bonus episode. We're going to release two different episodes within a very short period of time, which we normally don't do. But we're very excited for this specific episode with our guest, Vlad. Of course, he's been on the show in the past. He's our favorite Bitcoin Maximalist. He publishes BTCTKVR and also the Bitcoin Takeover podcast. He's based in Romania, and he's joining via Skype today. So thanks for coming to the show, Vlad.
Oh, thanks for having me on. It's good to be here for the second time.
Great to have you as a guest for the second time. And I think what we're talking about today is really exciting. You've hinted at it and shared some things on Twitter already. I know the Litecoin Foundation's picked this idea up. And if you're going to the Litecoin Summit, I myself will be there. Vlad will be there. Yay. And it's next week. Yeah, in Nashville. This will be available in a physical form. But what I'm referring to is your latest edition of BTCTKVR, the magazine. But it's not about Bitcoin. It's a Litecoin edition. So I want you to tell us about that. Why Litecoin?
I think I have an entire article about why Litecoin. And the way in which I describe Litecoin is that it's the ultimate altcoin. Litecoin is the ultimate altcoin. That's quite a tongue twister. But it's pretty cool in the sense that it has been around for 13 years. It has experimented for Bitcoin. And I think it was about time that a Bitcoin maximalist gave credit to Litecoin, as opposed to only giving credit when they activate SegWit and then backstab everyone and pretend that Litecoin is just another shitcoin from the basket of shitcoins and pretend that it has no merits, when in fact, there are so many lessons that Bitcoin can learn from Litecoin. From the fact that you guys activated MWeb, which I think is still an interesting proposal for Bitcoin, to merge mining, which is something that not too many people talk about, because Litecoin was able to secure its budget for miners by merge mining with Dogecoin. And this started out as a joke, maybe just some sort of benevolence that was displayed back in 2014. And 10 years later, it's actually Dogecoin that's paying the miners and is keeping them running, because LTC didn't go up as expected. It did not pump just like Bitcoin. I think Litecoin hodlers, if there is this class of Litecoiners, because it seems like the narrative is that you should just spend it, but Litecoin hodlers are much more resilient and much more, they're the true remnants, because they were not spoiled by institutions coming in to buy a lot of coins, and they proved that they can stick around and form a community and believe in this idea that there should be a network that supports Bitcoin. There should be this live quote unquote test net, which tries features which maybe are too avant-garde or too reckless for Bitcoin. But if it wasn't for Litecoin, we would not be having SegWit in Bitcoin. We would not be having fast adoption of the Lightning Network, because in the first year, companies that today are Bitcoin only, such as Async, the developers of Phoenix Wallet, and also Lightning Labs and their products, all of these were tested on Litecoin mainnet before they went to Bitcoin. So there is some credit that needs to be given to Litecoin. And this is the reason why I decided to do this magazine. And also, I came to the conclusion that the legit coins are the ones that have books and magazines and podcasts and content, because this is proof of a decentralized community. And I realized that since 2018, when my friend Ecurrencyhodler, I'm not sure if I should say his real name,
He may
but
be at the summit.
He released that book, which is called the Litecoin
Litecoin,
book,
the
if I'm not mistaken.
cryptocurrency for payments. And it's a beautiful
Yes.
purple and pink. Yes, that's back on the shelf.
I wanted to create something more updated, something that's new, and something that includes MWeb, something that includes something aspirational for Litecoin, because it seems like the discussion right now is that you guys are going to activate drive chains. And I do have an article about that. I do have an article about MWeb. I have an article about how to run a full node. I have an article which is more like a guide on how to mine, and it recommends you different types of ASIC miners and which mining pools you should consider choosing. Also explains solo mining and what are your odds to discover a block within 24 hours. And there's also an interview with three of the best known and most active developers in the Litecoin space. There's Loshan, who has been working on Litecoin since 2012 or something. There's Kerry Washington, who has been maintaining the Light Wallet project for years. And there's also someone new whose name is Hector, and he's the guy who built Electrum Litecoin, Electrum LTC. He made it support MWeb, and he also made this integration into Ledger Nano S to be able to use MWeb with a hardware wallet. I think that's very important. I think it's worthy of a mention. And there's also an article about which wallet you should choose, because that's a very important question that you should ask yourself when you're using something like Litecoin. And I made sure to pick the best choices and tell you why. For example, I don't recommend Ledger, even though it seems to be the first hardware wallet to integrate MWeb, not officially, but through this community project. And also why some multi-currency wallets are better than others. For example, Cake Wallet, at least they're going to integrate MWeb later this year. So they're worth considering as opposed to something like Exodus, which is gonna be stagnant. I'm not sure how much they support Litecoin development.
Yeah,
But
that
yeah, I guess this was a long intro. There's an article about pretty much everything that you should know about Litecoin, and pretty much everything you should understand in order to keep up with the future of Litecoin.
it's a really cool thing to see this come out. And I have to say, I think it's sort of ironic that, you mentioned E, and I do have that book, and he should be at the summit. I hope to have him on the show one of these days, because I do think that piece of literature he created for the community, while it is outdated now, one, it came to reality because we're seeing that it really is the cryptocurrency for payments. It's fulfilling that very much so, more and more. But it's important, and so I hope I get to have him on the show. We've reached out before; he's been busy, et cetera, et cetera, and he's of course entitled to his time. But I'm personally thankful for that piece of work that he created. I want to say in 2017, around that time.
No, it was 2018.
Was it 2018? Okay, it was
I
it was
remember because
ish.
I bought it at the time. I was a volunteer for the Litecoin Foundation for a while.
Yeah,
I started in December of 2017 when I got added to the Slack group. I wrote some of the first newsletters for the Litecoin Foundation.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I wrote a short article for all of them. I didn't write everything for the newsletter. And when this book came out, I think it was March or April of 2018.
Hmm.
And I remember buying it with Litecoin. So that was pretty cool.
That is cool. They still have it on the foundation website, I believe. I don't know if there's hard covers left or soft covers. I think it may be digital only. But either way, check it out. I'll put that in the show notes. But back to your magazine, I'm going to actually show a picture real quick on our screen so our visual guests will be able to see. This is the edition itself. And can you explain the cover to us, if you
Well,
can?
it depends on which edition you have right now.
I'm showing yours. Yeah.
But the cover that I designed was generated using Midjourney, and the prompt that I used was two characters in the style of Akira Toriyama, and Akira Toriyama is the creator of Dragon Ball Z and also the graphic designer behind video games like Chrono Trigger. So he has a very distinctive style, but I wanted something in his style. I didn't want something that's going to infringe some copyright. With a tall, handsome, muscular European man with a Bitcoin logo on his shoulder,
I
shaking
see.
hands with a muscular Asian man. And that was supposed to be, resemble Charlie Lee because he is the one who has Chinese origins. And the result was pretty nice. And I did make some slight modifications to it. But I think the depiction combines two images which I think are iconic in the culture of Litecoin and also in rock music culture, which I like. I think the cover looks a lot like the picture on the cover of the album Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd from 1975, which depicts a businessman shaking hands with someone on fire. It's pretty nice, honestly. and I did try to at least get that angle, get that representation. But it also resembles that meme which shows Goku and Vegeta fist bumping, and Goku
Mhm.
has the Bitcoin logo on his back and Vegeta has the Litecoin logo. I think
Yep.
that's a
Yep.
meme that dates back a while ago, and I wanted to put that on the cover. But on the back cover, and that one is also important, there's a chicken that's flying to the moon. And if you don't know, because I guess you're too new to know about the chicken arise meme, which used to be used on the troll box on some, I think it was used on Bitrex or something, where traders were typing stuff as they were trading, and someone came up with this phrase chicken arise, and chicken refers to Litecoin. It's an old meme, and I was hoping that the newer members of the community are gonna pick up on this meme because I think it's very nice.
I think so too. Unfortunately, my version, I do not. I looked at the back cover and I do not see it. I know it is there. I know I personally reviewed it. Is it on the web version? Because I think I'm viewing a version of the web, but you probably have revised this since I'm, I'm possibly reviewing or showing on my screen a an older variety before you finalize it, because I know we go through revisions. You and I have been going through that for the past few days. But either way, you're gonna have to get the physical copy to see, or download the digital copy if he added it, to see that graphic that he's talking about, because I don't see it on my current pull up. But it is a cool image, and yeah, I think the chicken meme is important. It's kind of been old. It was um, Chicken, Chikun, right? Was Charlie. That was kind of his avatar, if you will. It still is to a degree. But in terms of the kind of the Goku Vegeta shaking hands, I love that just general aesthetic of, companionship, cooperation, working together, and I think that's just a really expressive narrative that I like. I think the Dragon Ball Z thing is very interesting, actually. um, so very cool, awesome. I appreciate you kind of laying it out there. I'm just going to scroll through it for people to see on the video variety here. Sorry, folks, on the audio only, you don't see it, but yeah, you can see why
Well,
Litecoin.
if the people on the audio side want to see it, they can take their tablet or laptop and go to bitcoin-takeover.com/Litecoin, and that's where you can get the PDF. I made that available for everyone and anyone to read. You can download it, you can share it with your friends, you can print it yourself, you can sell it, you can modify it, you can translate it, you can do whatever you want with this. The point of this project is not for me to get rich or milk on this community, because I'm pretty sure that there will be people saying, oh, you came to Litecoin to make a buck or whatever. But my point right now is that I created this educational resource that can be shared around the world and anyone can use to understand Litecoin. I also believe that Litecoin is a very nice currency to make some personal experimentation and learn how wallets work before you get to Bitcoin. As a Bitcoin maximalist, I believe that Bitcoin probably will outlive us. Maybe Litecoin will too. But because Litecoin has lower fees, is not, doesn't have such a high price, you can make more personal mistakes and you can lose your keys, you can transfer between wallets, you can make a lot more cool stuff, and you can understand how stuff works. I think it's a very beautiful sandbox for newcomers. And I hope that these newcomers are gonna check out my magazine or at least discover some of it. And the beauty of a magazine as opposed to a book, because easily the content could have been put into a book, but I think that the graphics are more inviting and there's no commitment involved. When you see a book, you believe that you should read it from cover to cover. But when you get a magazine, you just get the piece of information that you find relevant and you think is going to help you learn something new. You can pick it up, let's say at the dentist office, you find it on the coffee table, you read it, you find out something new, and then you go home and you try Litecoin. That's the concept that I had in mind.
It's nice. It's attractive. I know when you came on last time, I showed your BTCTKVR Breaking FUD edition. During the interview, I believe that was the best one you had at the time. I know you've revised it a few times. I think there's some maybe additions, but yeah, it looks really, really good. Much more inviting than other forms. So I think it's great, and I think it's sort of hilarious that we have our Bitcoin Maximalists creating a wonderful Litecoin literature. I mean, this is just amazing. So it's a challenge to the Litecoiners, and it's a gratitude for those who cross the aisle and work with Litecoiners. I think it's great. But of course, you've done a lot for Litecoin over the years. You mentioned Kerry; he was our last guest too, and I mentioned you in that episode when we were talking about Light Wallet and the coming integrations with Newborn and then MWeb and everything else to Light Wallet. So it's great what you've done for the foundation and for the wallet and different aspects of the Litecoin community. And it continues and it continues and it continues. So great. Is this the first time you've done a non-Bitcoin centric edition?
Yes, it is. And I've done it because Bitcoin and Litecoin are very similar. And I believe that Litecoin can be this element that's going to push Bitcoin into improving. I figured along the way that I can spend time debating with people and tell them, this tech is really great, blah, blah, blah. You should add MWeb, or maybe you should consider this. Maybe drive chains are a good idea. But honestly, if Litecoin does it first and gets a lot of users, I think this is going to be much more compelling for the Bitcoin developers to push this and consider it and see that there's a live implementation on it with proper incentives. If some of their concerns are true, then they should be able to steal coins or whatever. There was a lot of thought about SegWit, that anyone can spend the coins from an address. It was actually Charlie Lee, and I wrote this in the magazine. He used a pseudonym on Reddit and went on and said, I put $1 million worth of Litecoin in this address. If you think that SegWit is not secure, then steal them. And that was a challenge that was issued out there to the entire internet to be able to discover the fabled vulnerability in SegWit. And I think with stuff like MWeb and drive chains, it's going to be pretty much the same. The concerns expressed right now are going to be destroyed by the fact that Litecoin is going to do it pretty well. Because honestly, the Litecoin developers are fairly competent and they know what they're doing. And we're going to see some very cool stuff in the next few months, I guess, if everything works according to plan. And that's the ultimate push for Bitcoin to improve. I think it's not, when you think about it in terms of a free market, sometimes it's competition that pushes you to adapt,
Right.
as opposed to just making it about, oh, only this one coin should exist. Only this one is going to add everything. And then you say that it becomes stagnant and the culture pushes for this complacent attitude. I don't like it too much. It's not the same Bitcoin for which I signed up, especially in the part where people accept private banking with Fedimints and stuff like that. And they say, it's fine because community leaders can be trusted.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the whole point of this technology is to not trust third parties.
Yeah.
And I would rather use Litecoin than use something which pushes me to trust someone, even if I think the official maximalist narrative about Litecoin is that it creates monetary inflation. So if it succeeds, we're not just going to have 21 million Bitcoin, we're also going to have 84 million Litecoin. So
Right.
that adds up to 105 million coins in total. But honestly, if that's what it takes to free people from the evil of central banking and have everyone able to make transactions, I'm also fine with this. Also with Monero, maybe we're going to have this multi-chain future, not feature,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
people are going to be able to swap between networks to get different advantages all the time. But if you read the article about drive chains, which I'm not sure exactly at which page that is, but you should get it from bitcoin-takeover.com/Litecoin. I'm advertising here.
As you should.
You
Yeah.
should download
I
it.
want
Yeah.
people to download it.
If
It's amazing. Yeah.
if you read the article about drive chains and the interview that I did with Paul Stortz, you're gonna see that he believes that drive chains are a winner takes it all kind of technology, because basically you're creating a network which adds side chains for every other network. So you're empowering this network to copy the features of other altcoins and build it on a much more stable and much more proven and much better with greater network effects monetary base. So if you build this on Litecoin as opposed to launching a new altcoin, it's going to make a lot more sense. And if that gets a lot of users and gets developers to build on top of it, it's good news for the demand for Litecoin. And if it grows, it might even become a threat to the dominance of Bitcoin today.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like that because I think competition is great, but it'll also be ironic if it turns out that Litecoin is the one coin that gets mainstream adoption.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, that's interesting. Paul, he's been on your show. I think you've had hours upon hours of episode content with him, which is great. I listened to many of them, by the way. And he will be at the Litecoin Summit. So I'm glad we're receptive to him and what he's talking about. And yeah, I think Litecoiners are pretty open minded. It is a little bit terrifying to change the code because you always have the opportunity for error, right? And I know that's why MWeb took so long to actually become, be released, be activated, and that's why it's taking longer to hit mobile because they want to iron every single thing out that they know about before going live. Unlike some maybe other projects that aren't quite as reliable, but great, excellent. How many copies? Where can people get this? I know that you did mention your website, but will there be physical copies?
If you're coming to the Litecoin Summit, the Litecoin Foundation is going to print 50 very special copies, which I'm going to personally sign. And maybe, I don't know anything about this. I'm not projecting, I'm not pushing anyone to do this. But the latest discussion was that maybe, big maybe, Charlie Lee is going to sign the cover. I don't know about that. He can say no. It can happen. It might as well not happen. Maybe you can go personally to him and ask him to sign your copy if you get it, and he will not want to sign all of them. But you can get it from the summit for, I don't know what the price is going to be because I'm not the one selling them or printing them. I'm just happy that it's getting traction and it's becoming a community project as opposed to becoming a business for myself. I'm happy I created this, and if you want to support my work, there's a donation address inside the magazine. But overall, I'm happy with the project, and I think it's going to help spread adoption with a coin that actually makes sense, as the market has been pretty unfair with Litecoin over the last few years. I think we have too many scams, dog with hat, and Geo Bowden and Dolan Trump and all of that stuff with meme coins that get billions of dollars in market cap but provide nothing of value. And Litecoin has been here. Even if you think that Litecoin is useless, you still can't deny the fact that Dogecoin is a top 10 coin and it's secured by the Litecoin network. So the entire infrastructure is provided by Litecoin. And I think it deserves more credit for what it does and for what it's accomplishing.
I agree with you, sir. I agree with you. You're going to be giving a talk on this too, I would imagine, at the summit. So this is again bonus episode on the podcast, kind of a fun, quick one. But you're going to be going more in depth at the summit with physical copies.
Yeah, my presentation on stage is going to be about that. Plus, the fact that there's this guy named Rob who back in 2014 printed a few thousand keychains with the Litecoin logo, and he got rugged by, I'm not sure if I should say his name, but at the time he was a Litecoin developer, and in the meantime he became a Bitcoin developer, so he was no longer interested in picking up his order. And I'm gonna have like 600 keychains or something,
So you're
and I think I'm gonna give them away and ask people to send some donations directly to Rob. His name is Rob Mitchell on Twitter. He is at the BTC game.
mm-hmm.
And he has been an early adopter of Bitcoin and Litecoin. He tried to run this business with keychains and he got rugged. And maybe, I have no personal benefit from this other than helping someone to maybe recover some costs,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
he spent like a few $100s to create these and then he kept them in his basement for years. And maybe there are some of the most ancient Litecoin artifacts alongside Cassius coins that were made with Litecoin. So you should get one.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm gonna sell them or I'm just gonna ask people to send donations directly to Rob, but I'm also gonna cover that in my talk.
Very
It's a
cool.
nice story.
I saw a little bit of back and forth between you and him on that topic, and that's neat that he's kind of moving the the keychain whale is moving. I know that's not exactly the way he intended it to be. I think he wanted to diffuse them a lot quicker, but like you said, there were circumstances, and I didn't know what the deal was. But that's pretty neat that there's kind of some physical ancient Litecoin artifacts showing up, and you're helping with that too. Very cool, very cool. Well, this episode, it's called Vlad and Kyle discuss BTCTKVR Litecoin editions. So why are we talking about plural? Well, the neat thing is, as of this episode, as it's published, if you visit the 84million.com shop or 84million.com/shop, we have a version for 84 million, which is a variant, which I've been working with Vlad on. Much of the content is the same, but we do have a specific 84 million only version with a specific article that basically is adapted from, but not exactly, and definitely truncated, because I wasn't going to transcribe an hour and a half of our former talk. So it's definitely shortened. It's definitely kind of condensed, but we have an 84 million edition with Vlad and an interview with him in it from our show. We have artwork that we generated in line with kind of the tradition here with AI, but rather than Vlad designing those, I went ahead and did it, and we have our own cover. So that's pretty cool. I'll show it on the screen and take a peek here so you can see it. So the cover we can see right now. It was created with AI, generative AI, in the likeness of a cartoon we might know. But I think it looks really super. And of course, we modded it after the fact with 84 million on the character on the left and BTCTKVR on the pants of the character on the right. And I think, speaking of that meme earlier, which we referenced, we're kind of in line with that. So that's pretty neat. And if we scroll through it, give me a minute, we can kind of see the finished version, which again, the one I showed earlier, I realized I had your really old primitive version on my screen with ad space and everything else. So what you're looking at here is going to look like Vlad's final one, and of course the 84 million version, which is beautiful, completed. And then you see Vlad right there on the screen. And we got some images and things in there, screenshot. So it's pretty neat to have our own kind of version of this. We will not have this at the summit. I'm going to get a hard copy later this afternoon, literally, so I can review it, make sure it looks good, and then we're going to go to print. So I'm expecting hard copies to be ready for mailing anywhere in the world in August, probably the first or second week of August. So really excited about that. So Litecoin Foundation, you can get Vlad's variety. Maybe Vlad prints more and produces them on his own. I'm not entirely sure. That's up to him. But we will be making 25 copies of this, at least as a kind of a start. So it's going to be limited on the BTCTKVR side and the BTCTKVR side with the 84 million collab. So pretty cool. Go back to our joint screen here. But I appreciate you working with me to kind of get that done. I know we had some revisions back and forth over the period of time, and hey, I found a typo, hey, this, and you know what, friends, I still don't think it's perfect, but it's a lot better, and I think it's solid. And what are your thoughts on the collaboration? Have you done any of these before?
Yeah, I did, but there were more like artistic collaborations in terms of I had people who do graphic design or Bitcoin artists drawing a version of the cover that depicts their style, their art. I did something with an artist named Jay Skrilla. I think right now he goes by the name of Skrilla Ventura.
Okay.
And I did another one with Bitco, who is one of the best known designers, and a bunch of others. I don't want to insult anyone by not mentioning their names. There was also a guy named Norman Comics who did his own Pepe version of my Breaking FUD cover. It's a lot of fun. It's nice to work with people to design something different. I've also asked you directly, specifically, to create your own version of the cover to make it distinctive and give people, maybe there's going to be collectors out there and they want to have every edition. They're going to come to the summit and then they also want to buy the 84 million edition of the same magazine, which includes an extra article consisting of the interview that you did with me. So if they want to do that, they should also enjoy a bonus. And that bonus is going to come in the form of a different cover, which is distinctive, helps them understand that it's not the exact same. And anyone out there, you're free to print your own copies and sell them if you want. but please change the cover. If you don't have the graphic, I don't know, talent, or you don't have any inspiration to change it, just swap the color palette or something. Add some filter. Do something that makes it look slightly different. You can slap your logo on it. I don't care. Just spread the content. This is what it's all about. It's not about me making money. It's not about you making money, Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about spreading the knowledge and empowering anyone to know how to use Litecoin and ultimately how to use Bitcoin because they're so similar that makes a lot of sense.
Here. I think the content diffusion is important. I will add, though, it is a magazine. I'm going to call it more of a graphic novel. And when I went to print for my version for 84 million, it's not going to be stapled or anything like that, like a standard magazine, like you're going to get on a counter somewhere. It's going to be bound. It's going to be much more like a graphic novel. So I'm sure some of our folks have your editions physically and they know what I'm talking about. But for those who don't, they're very nicely done. And I wanted to keep that trend because with me coming with you on this version, I wanted to do honor to what you've already created and stay, kind of on the same line, right? So it's not, it is a magazine, but it's a little bit nicer than that. So again, it's not going to be, $4 to make these things. So while we're not making money, we do need to cover costs because it does cost money to create these physical items and mail them in space. So I'm still pricing mine out. I don't think it's going to be more than $30, which seems like, oh my goodness, like how do you pay that for a book? But like Vlad said, I think it's a neat part of our
Well,
ecosystem.
you're gonna understand why it costs so much when you put your hands on it,
Here,
and
here.
you understand that the paper is glossy.
Yeah,
The graphics are very nice. It costs a lot to print.
yeah, yeah.
It's much more expensive to produce than a book.
Much more. Yeah.
And maybe that you don't take it seriously because you think, oh, magazines are cheaper than books. It's not the case. You should try printing them and you're going to understand much better. Once again, bitcoin-takeover.com/Litecoin. That's where you can check it out for yourself. I think these hard copies are more like collectibles,
Hmm.
something that you get because you want to get. You can print your own if you want. Possibly you're going to get a better price for it. But if you want to support Kyle and his podcast, or you want to support the Litecoin Foundation, you can buy a hard copy from them, and the profits are going to go to their projects. I think that's very beautiful. And I don't think you save too much money, honestly, if you print them. Maybe you get a good price, like $20 per copy, but you have to do 50. If you only do one, you're going to probably pay a lot more than you pay for just buying one.
Yeah, yeah. And the amount of, I don't expect Vlad to do anything for free, although I have to say he's extremely good to work with and it's been a pleasure. But, he said, hey, my designer, we're going back and forth. We're going to have to cover a little bit of cost. I said, yes, I'm going to pay for that. So that's added a little bit of cost to my edition, for example, versus Vlad's because he's already had the baseline. And I will add, to be consistent with our podcast, I did pay Vlad in Litecoin through MWeb to cover those costs, which then he paid his guys to do it. So we're consistent here. He's consistent. I'm consistent. We like to create a product for Litecoin and even pay for it to a degree with Litecoin. So really, really cool. You'll be at the summit. You're going to have physical copies there. Again, mine will be shipping hopefully early August. Speaking of markers and signatures and everything else, I wanted to kind of pivot. You're a torchbearer, the MWeb torchbearer, which we were doing. There is
I have
actually
the T-shirt. I'm
yeah,
gonna bring it to the summit.
you have a T-shirt, and there were a few of those. We don't make them anymore. But I think many of us will be there. I was actually really bummed when initially you were having visa issues because I'm like, not only do I want to meet you in person for the humanity, right? And we've met here, so we get to do this. But to meet you and say, hey, we've actually got a few folks in the room. Many of us, I think, from that torch bearing experience, will be together and we can like sign each other's shirts, or there's a print on the website. And by the way, if you want a free print, just contact us on Twitter, X at 84 million. We gave all the prints away for free to the torch bearers. The reason they're not free is because I get tons of spam emails like submitted for nothing. So I have to charge a little bit so I can at least screen all that out. Otherwise, I'm going to have an email list where I try to actually contact you for something and I get all these bounce backs because everybody doesn't want to give me anything. So I had to put some parameters on that. But either way, if you'd like a print to print on your computer or make a poster, whatever you want to do, to bring to the summit, I'd like us to all get together, bring our markers, and do some signatures. I think that'd be really cool. I already have mine hanging. It's not in this room, it's in another room in the house, and I'd like to have your signature on it. And Master BTC, I think he's going to be there, and a bunch of others. So do bring markers for the Bitcoin Takeover Edition. Maybe you can get Charlie to sign it. And of course, if you're a torchbearer and want to be a part of that, print something out and come, and we'll get a table and do some co-signing. So I wanted to throw that out there. But anyway, any final words that you want to say about your newest edition, or anything else to kind of maybe land the episode?
Yeah, just download it. I can spend all day talking about the process, talking about the graphics, talking about what's in the articles, what I talk about. But I think the best way for you to experience this project is to go to bitcoin-takeover.com/Litecoin, download it, scroll through the pages, read whatever you think is interesting, and then think of a way to get a hard copy. And then get that hard copy in the hands of someone who might not know as much about how Litecoin works, and spread the knowledge, because that's the whole point. This is sort of a silver pilling mechanism, you know? You're spreading this around, you're teaching people how to use Litecoin, and that's how you get the network effect. That's how you stay number one on BitPay. That's how you pump the price. You just need users. I think the technology is really good. You have MWeb, which I think is incredible. It gives both privacy and scalability. You might have drive chains. I'm super enthusiastic about the future of Litecoin. And for the record, everything about this magazine was produced receiving LTC and nothing else. I didn't want to accept anything else except for LTC. It's labor of love. I love it myself, and I'm excited about presenting it on the stage of the Litecoin Summit in Nashville.
I think so too. It's gorgeous. We're grateful for it. I look forward to meeting you. I look forward to sitting during your talks. Just a reminder, it's not too late to get a ticket. We're hoping this is going to be published today on 7/18. July 24th and 25th in Nashville. That's when the summit is taking place. Tickets are still available, and tickets are $84 a piece. So very affordable. You can pay with fiat. You can pay with Litecoin. That's your choice. But yeah, do join us in Nashville. I'll be moderating a panel on ordinals. And I know, Vlad, you've got your Bitcoin Takeover talk, among, I think, others, or perhaps other panels.
There's also an ordinal that I minted for this magazine, but I still don't know what to do with it. Maybe I will sell it later when the project becomes big. I don't know.
But you're holding it.
Keep it. Yeah, I'm holding it.
Okay, so the ordinal you'll find on ordinalslight.com. If you find the Bitcoin Takeover cover, Litecoin Edition, with the cover that he described earlier, Vlad created. So I'm glad, it's funny I asked you about that, because anybody can put anything on there and mint it. So I'm like, was this you, or did somebody grab it first and upload it? So I'm glad that you have it. I'm glad that you have your work inscribed on a Litoshi bundle. Very good. Very good.
No, it's inscription number 257-52100. So this is, I guess, 25,752,100. Check it out.
Very cool.
I
Very
own
cool.
it in my wallet. So if you want to buy that from me, it's gonna be, I don't know, 20 Litecoin. I don't know.
Talk to Vlad to sort that one out. But very cool, Vlad. I appreciate you coming on. It was kind of a quick one here, bonus episode, and but super fun, great content. And check Vlad out on Twitter or X, the Vlad Costea. Find him at the Bitcoin Takeover, bitcointakeover.com. Subscribe to his podcast. He's got multiple seasons, great content, extensive content. And of course, he's on YouTube. You may be on other channels as well, but subscribe wherever you can find him. And of course, if you can do that for 84 million, we appreciate that too. More traction, more reach just helps us get the word out. So it's a wonderful thing. So anyway, Vlad, great to see you. We'll see you in Nashville.
Yes, sir. I'll see you there.
All right. See you later. Bye-bye.